Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.
And welcome once again to High School Basketball Weekly. Tim Maury alongside of my sidekick, Rick Bua. And Rick, another great week of high school action in Northern Berkshire. And we've got a great week coming up, and we're going to detail all of it to you here, coming up right here on High School Basketball Weekly. And we'll get going right away here and get started with the girls' action. And McCann Tech played a very, very tough, low-scoring ball game against Ludlow, their only game of the past week, Rick. But they came up on the short end of it, 41-35.
Yeah, Ludlow is a league game, and Ludlow is a team a lot like Mount Everett and McCann, a young and an upcoming team. And those are the games that Coach Krantz probably told the girls, you know, we've got a real good shot, whether we're hosting Ludlow or we go down to Ludlow. So Ludlow's record only has a few wins themselves, but they did take it out of chin, 41-35. And that was at Ludlow too, so you know, give them a lot of credit for hanging in there. Game was tied at 19 in the fourth quarter, Tim. After only scoring 6 in the first half, Ludlow scored 35 in the second half, so that was the difference to gain that win. Turnovers was the difference in the game, according to Coach Krantz in his statements in the paper and in iBerkshires.
But he got a big game out of Hannah Boisvert. She's really started to come along here.
Yeah, they had to find some scoring, and she's done it pretty much regularly all the way through the season. They look for her in the post, and she's having a pretty good season. She's averaging double figures, which you'll see later on in the program, and she led the Hornets with 18 points. So, you know, it's getting extra scoring. You know, who's that second scorer going to be? And as soon as it was Aiden Champney for a while, and as soon as he can get that second score. But again, a very, very young program. Not a lot of experience, but they're battling,
right,
for sure.
The Drury Blue Devils played 3 games over the past week, Rick, and they came out on the better end of it, winning 2 and losing 1, and they now stand at 6-5 overall, and are looking to punch a ticket to the state tournament. And they started off with a loss at Pioneer Valley, which is nothing to be ashamed of. And they battled hard in that game to come away with the loss.
Yeah, the Drury girls have hung around the 500 record for the last few years. They dip down a little bit. Sometimes they'd be 3 games under 500, and then they get to 500, go back under 500, and they ended up last year. It was 13-13 or 12-12 or something of that nature, and they. Pretty much the same thing this year. You know, they're battling every game. They've been in every game. They trailed 37-31 at Pioneer Valley, entered the fourth. It's tough when your top scorer is in foul trouble. And Jacinta Felix has had that problem off and on a little bit this year. She sat most of the second quarter, and Drury tried to hang tight in there, and they were in the ballgame all the way through. So you can't ask for anything more than that. Felix, who did set a lot of that second quarter, Tim, still was the leading scorer with 10 points. Ashlyn Hayden has been coming on really, really strong lately with 9. And sophomore Nora Wood, who was very impressive. I liked her in the game that we covered this year and watching her in the Jamboree. She's got a lot of talent, and she's getting a lot of varsity experience like the 9th graders are. And that's good for Coach Downey's program. But then they won a couple games, as you said, got back in the winning way, going back to 500 again, defeating Mount Greylock over in Williamstown, 47-37. And as you remember, Tim, when you and I did the game back in December up at the Bucky Bullet Gym, both teams were playing a little bit shorthanded, especially Coach Jacoby's Mounties. And Coach Downey in the interview basically told us, I can guarantee you that it's going to be a much different game when we go to Williamstown. It certainly was. They did come away with a 10-point win, though. They only led 18-16 at the half, but outscored the Mounties 22-14 in the second half to pull away just a little bit. In that ball game, Nora Wood had a career and game high 17 points on 4 threes, and Brooke Bishop was in double figures with 10, and Jacinta Felix just in back of her with 9. And then in a very, very close defensive game in North Adams, they knocked off Belchertown 38-35. Drury trailed 22-20 at the half in that one, and then took a 33-32 lead going into the fourth. So Coach Downey's teams, Tim, have been in every ball game this year, win or lose. There's not a lot of blowouts, and they don't get blown out themselves. They're
Exactly.
in those ball games. In that game, Jacinta Felix was the top scorer with 12 points. Nora Wood had 10. So you're getting double figures from Jacinta Felix on a fairly regular basis. Nora Wood is starting to contribute in double figure scoring. And I really firmly believe that third person. I think that third person obviously is Brooke Bishop, who does everything else, is a great defender, rebounder, a leader on the court, loves to dish and assist. But if the time is right and she's got a chance to score, having that third person with 8, 9, 10 points or more is going to help that team out in the end.
And again, in that game, going back briefly, and I agree with you on it, Rick, going back to that Drury Greylock game, for Greylock in that one, that the 8th grader, again, Tanley Drake, the 9th grader, 13 points.
Yeah, I think she might be an 8th grader.
Right,
Yeah.
you're right. I get confused,
Yeah.
that's right, between her and her sister Madison. But,
Right,
she continues to impress young Tanley Drake. So nothing but good things on the horizon for Coach Jacoby's Mounties from Mount Greylock.
Yeah, the Drake sisters did lead the scoring, Tim, in that Drury game, as you said. Tanley with 13, Madison had 8. Jackie Brannon also contributed. So, they're going to be, Drury's going to be okay. Although, you and I talked last night when we did the game and off camera today, tough road ahead. They've got some real tough games. They got Pope Francis twice, Agawam again. I think they play PHS. They got to play Hoosick Valley. We'll be talking about that in the program in a few minutes.
Right. And speaking of Hoosick Valley, they had a couple games over the past week, and they split them. They beat Hampshire. They complete the season series with them, 63-39 at home. So they've beaten Hampshire twice. But they had a tough ball game down at South Hadley with the Lady Tigers.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Hampshire win first, the 63-39 win. The Hurricanes led by 9 at half and then outscored Hampshire 31-16 in the second half. They were led by guard Ashlyn LaSure, who had 21, Taylor Garabedian right behind her with 20. That's a heck of a 1-2 tandem they have down there. And it isn't every game, but those are the two leading scorers for sure, and you'll see that in a few minutes also. Hannah Shea also contributed double figures with 10. But I wasn't shocked at the outcome of the Hoosick loss at South Hadley, only because you and I had done a game earlier in Cheshire, the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes against the Tigers of South Hadley, and that was a pretty good ball game most of the way. And we felt that it was going to be a tough task on the road when you go to South Hadley. They're very young and upcoming, and they're a good ball club in that league.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a nice team, South Hadley. They play out of Division 4. So Hoosick Valley splitting with them, and of course Hampshire also plays Division 4. So Hoosick gets some extra points, and we'll talk about that as we go through the rankings. But Hoosick Valley now stands at 7-2, 6-1 in their league, and they got some tough upcoming games. They got one at Waconan, of course. The game we'll talk about in just a minute. They play the Drury Blue Devils up at Drury, and that's always a tough contest. But for her play over this past week, the second time this year, Ashlyn LaSure is our girls' high school player of the week. There you see it. She had a big game against Hampshire and then followed that up with 12 points on the road against South Hadley. And the thing you like about this young lady, Rick, is she's very quiet out there on the court, unassuming, but she gets it done. A very solid ball player, plays the game, very smart, nothing flashy, but boy, she gets it done.
Yeah, I agree with everything. She caught my eye 2 seasons ago. She hasn't disappointed her coach, her teammates, or the Hoosick fans. She does her job. She does it very, very well. She sees the court. She's got great basketball mentality, and she's not always the leading scorer, but she is averaging double figures, and it's usually she and Taylor Garabedian. In that loss, we just talked about Tim down at South Hadley. Garabedian had 13 and LaSure had the 12, as you just saw. But Boy, you pick and choose some of these players of the week. You can give them to 3 or 4 candidates every week, but she's very deserving of the honor this week.
And of course, we just alluded to the big game coming up, our high school game of the week next week. There it is. The Lady Hurricanes go to Drury and will take on the Blue Devils Monday night, 7 o'clock, and it's going to be broadcast live here on Northern Berkshire Community Television. And this is a big game for both of these teams, Rick. I think coming in at this point in the season, Drury, of course, trying to move up the ladder, and we're going to go over that in a little bit, the seeding, and Hoosick Valley hoping to hang on.
Yeah, I think for Coach Frederick, it's just getting back on the winning track. They have Wacona that will report, that was played last night,
Right.
that will report next week, and then they've got Monument Mountain. So tough one at Wacona. Monument Mountain, but probably be a little bit easier. He's going to try to hopefully get his kids back on track after that loss, get a couple of wins, and then take on the Drury Blue Devils. And at Drury, it's going to be just a little bit tougher for the Hurricanes, but they are a good road team overall, and they always have been. For Coach Downey, I think it's just the mentality of letting his kids know that these girls play with you sometimes in the summer with AAU, or they play with sometimes the same team. But it's just that the Hurricanes have had their way, not just with Drury, Tim, but with Berkshire County and in the league in Western Mass for so long now. They've got the target on their back every game. The teams are gunning for Hoosick Valley because you know where you stand if you can give them a good ball game, win or lose.
Right.
And I think that's what Coach Downey's going to have to get his point across to his kids, that you just have to go out and play your game and play as hard as you possibly can and keep it close. Just stay in the ballgame.
And I think it's really going to be an interesting game, a clash of styles. Coach Downey has his young Blue Devils playing that pressing, hard defensive style all over the court, as opposed to Hoosick Valley's more senior-oriented or experience-oriented squad. They play a power game with Taylor Garabedian, so it'll be interesting, contrast of styles.
Yeah, I think. I think Drury just needs to play their game and keep it close. And the Hurricanes are going to do the same thing. They're going to play their game also. And we'll see who's a little bit hotter from the field and what kind of defenses they're playing and if there's any pressure at all. But we're looking forward very much to doing that game.
Absolutely.
Next
And
week.
again, that's Monday night up at Bucky Bullitt Gymnasium at Drury High School. We'll be broadcasting that game live on channel 1302 starting around 7 o'clock. Yours truly, along with Rick Bua and former Drury coach John Franzoni. We'll all be there for that one, and it will be Monday night. Switching over to the boys' action, Rick, Greylock had a nice victory at home against Franklin Tech. They beat them 71-32, and nice victory for the Mounties. Yeah,
they needed that win. That's a league contest also. They had lost their 2 previous league games, the first 2 this year and the first 2 in the history since that league was formed, the Hampshire North. And so winning that game gave his kids a lot of confidence. And they led all the way big. And they were led by Des Cobb with 29 points and Ward Bianchi, the 9th grader, with 12, and Noah Kane Smalls, also a 9th grader, with 10. Brady Auger had 8. Judge Martin had 7. So some nice, really balanced scoring there. Then they had a game just the other night on Tuesday night that was postponed when we had a little inclement weather come through the area. And they've got Lee coming up and another winnable game for the Mounties.
Absolutely, and they stand at 6-5, 5-2 in their league, but they're in good position, Rick, to qualify for the state tournament by the time the season is all completed.
They are, yes, they are.
Hoosick Valley, they came away with 2 victories. They're continuing to move along after their 1 loss against Monument. They defeated Belchertown 75-55. It's the second time now they've swept the season series with Belchertown, and kudos to them. They had a nice victory there.
Yeah, they defeated Belchertown by a score of 74-53 back in December on the 21st. Oh, I'm sorry, that was actually in Cheshire, but
Right.
then went down there and handled him
Right.
pretty well. It was the senior duo. The two leading scorers for the Hurricanes came through again as usual. Joey McGovern and Frank Field led the scoring. McGovern had 24, and Frank was right behind with 23. Quennell Bradley had 12. Trevor Monahan and Caden Tacho, each had 8. So, again, I don't want to keep overemphasizing this, but I do think about it and talk about it all the time. They get very balanced scoring.
Right.
And they do have 4 starters, almost 5 starters, I believe, in double figures.
Yep.
Drury with 4, Hoosick Valley with 5. And
That's
when
right.
you get that balanced scoring like that, you don't have to look for the scoring. It's going to show up one way or another. And then they had a little bit easier game, Tim, after the Belchertown game, and they handled Bay State Academy 58-26. Bay State with a young rebuilding team in the basement of their division. And for the third consecutive game, Joey McGovern led the scoring for the Hurricanes. He had 21. He had 16 of his 21 in the first quarter alone. Aiden Wex had 9. All 10 of the Hurricanes that Coach Robinson put on the floor that played in that game hit the scoring column, and that's nice to see.
Right. Yeah. Again, as you alluded to Rick, we've seen this now, but both with Hoosick Valley and Drury, balanced scoring, putting players on the floor. Both Coach Reset and Coach Robinson able to put 5 players on the floor at a time who are able to score the basketball, and they do it in a balanced way, which is really, really a luxury.
It is. It's a luxury, and it's nice for the coach to know that at any time, almost any young athlete they have on the floor can come up with a big night.
Talk about a team that's hot, Rick. McCann Tech. McCann started a little slow, but they're on a roll now. They played 3 games over the past week, and they came away with 3 big victories.
Yeah, we at Northern Berkshire Community Television, we broadcasted the Mount Greylock game, and it was a good one. We had a lot of fun down there that night, but they came up just a little bit short. But they had a great week. You can't do any better than what they did. They defeated Bay State 59-43 by outscoring their opponents 18-6 in the fourth quarter. The Hornets led 15-8, 25-23 at the half, and then that by 4 at the end of 3. Jake Howland had a nice game with 19. Walt Mazza had 16. Zach Howland 11. Eric Rougeau 10. So 4 Hornets in double figures for that game. And then Tim, they knocked off Mount Everett in a game in North Adams, and it was a revenge game.
Right.
And 53-49, a real good one down at McCann. Again, Jake Howland, the senior sharpshooting guard, had a game-high 29 points on 8 threes. 8 threes for the young man in one game.
Right.
Walt Mazza, again in double figures with 12. Eric Rougeau with 9. And Mazza, I talked to Coach Chris Bullitt, and he told me that Walt Mazza held the leading scorer for Mount Everett, Michael Ulrich, to only 7 points. Did a great defensive job on him. So he contributed offensively and defensively as well, and that was the difference in the game.
And Ulrich is a fine player for Mount Everett.
Sean Warren, Michael Ulrich, they got a couple of real good ones down there,
right,
too.
that's quite an accomplishment there on the defensive end.
And then their third win, Tim, was a really high score. 93 points the Hornets put on the board, knocking off Gateway 93-22. Mazza with 18. Eric Rougeau at 14, Zach Howland 10, and all 12 McCann players. We talked about Hoosick Valley a few moments ago. All 12 McCann players that got on the floor scored in that game. And then they've got Ludlow coming up, and they've got Hamden Charter coming up. So they've got a chance to make it 4 or 5 in a row.
Yeah, they're on a roll. I mean, they're starting to really put it together now, Rick. And every win in Division 5 for them moves them up the ladder, and you're going to start. I think we're going to start seeing them move up the ladder in the overall state rankings. And for their efforts, we've got 2 co-players of the week this week, both from McCann. The senior Jake Howland, he's had a great game and a great week, Rick.
Yeah, 19 against Bay State, 29 against Mount Everett with those threes. And that was one of the major reasons, other than Mazza's work on Ulrich defensively. Didn't need a lot of scoring against Gateway. Everybody got in there and scored, had 9. But started a little bit slow offensively this year. He didn't need it because of Rougeau and Mazza stepping up, his brother Zach stepping up. But when the pressure's on, the experience of Jake Holland really plays a role there.
And how about the other senior for McKeon, Walt Mazza? He also had a big week, and he's really starting to combine there with Holland, and that's quite a tandem.
Yeah, it's a very good tandem. Yeah, they got three if we had Rougeau, and we'll put Eric Rougeau on the honorable mention. Very, very rarely do we have co-players of the week, but we just couldn't decide here at High School Basketball Weekly between the two because they had such great weeks. 15 against Bay State for Walt, 12 against Mount Everett, but with that huge defensive effort, and 18 against Gateway. So if Walt Mazza and Howard and Eric Rougeau can continue to score consistently, they're going to do very, very well down the road.
Right. Well, Drury Blue Devils, Rick, they had two nice victories. They were hard-fought affairs. One earlier in the week against a very big Frontier regional team, a game which you saw personally, you were there, and then a game we'll talk about in just a moment that we covered here on Northern Berkshire Community Television with Mahar at home, and they came away with a victory there.
Yeah, we'll start with the Frontier Regional. I did go up to the Bucky Village Gym and watch that game last week, and when Frontier came out on the floor, I was just amazed with their size. They have a 6'6" center, a 6'4" shooting guard, or forward, power forward. Their other guards are maybe 6'2", 6'1", and then they have a 5'9" point guard, but they're very, very big. And Drury held their own and knocked off Frontier 56-50. They led just about all the way, 15-13 after one, 31-20 at the half, and 47-39, but gave away the lead at the very beginning of the fourth quarter, and then went seesaw back and forth for a while, and then right in front of the Drury bench, Dante Dillard hit a huge three to put the Devils up, and then they iced it with some free throws. So that was a real big win for them. Sam Mormon led the way in that Frontier game with 19 and 11 rebounds. Dillard had 12. Miles Beauchamp and Jorge Bond added 9. And Owen Babb, the 6'6" center, had 17 for the Frontier regional team. And then Sasha Dracovic, the sharp shooting power forward, added 14. Then in a game we just did, Tim.
Right, earlier this week, that's right.
They knocked off Mahar, so that was a revenge. So you can see Miles Beauchamp early in the first quarter. He had the first 7 points of the game for Drury. A couple of threes and then a free throw at the end of the first quarter. There's a nice move to the basket by Dillard. He an and one, went to the line and made it. Here's some hard work by Connor Hinkle. After a miss, his own miss, he had a great game last year.
Yeah.
We'll talk about him in a minute.
Yeah, we will.
And there's Hinkle with a little short shot. So when Connor Hinkle can add some points, that's great. And there's a beautiful, nifty move to the basket by Jorge Bond. And then in the second half, Sammy Mormon, who was held scoreless, Tim, in the first half, got going. And you can see a couple jumpers from the lane here from Sammy. And then you'll see a jumper from the left wing coming up here shortly. And he had 11 points to lead the Blue Devils, but he was scoreless in the first half. And you and I did say at halftime, both leading scorers from each team had not scored yet, and we said the athlete that put some points on the board, his team is probably going to win the ball game, and that happened.
And that happened. Drury actually held Jaden Delgado, who was the leading scorer for Mahar, who averaged 14 points a game, held him scoreless, really took him out of the game. Excellent, actually good defense by both teams, but that was an outstanding aspect of this game.
Yeah, there were turnovers, and at times, Tim, I had mentioned to you on the air that I thought that Mahar was playing just a little bit too fast, and but they like to get the ball and go. They don't look for a guard on a wing. They just take the ball and go. They're a good ball club, and that was a nice win for Drury, and that's 2 league wins in the same week over Frontier and Mahar.
Yeah, and that's a tough league, Rick. You know, you've got Drury, Pioneer,
Mahar, Frontier, Mahar.
That's a tough league.
And up until this year, you got to put Hopkins Academy in there.
Right.
So,
and just taking a look at the rankings here now, you'll see this is Division 5, Rick. Of course, we've got some of the teams here. The top 10, we've got Huzik there at 3. Followed, look at there, by Pioneer. The only two losses they've got are to Drury and Hoosick. Granby in there at 9-2. Mahar. Now that's going to switch around because this does not take into account Drury's win over Mahar. Mahar is 9-3. Drury going to 8-2. So the next time these rankings come up, I think you're going to see Drury jump up somewhere in that 5, 6, 7 range as they continue to move up the rankings. So they got a tough schedule to go the rest of the way, but some good teams from Western Mass in that ranking, right?
Yeah, very much. And again, you mentioned Pioneer still leading the Hampshire South Drury's league. Drury gave them the only league loss. Hoosick Valley beat them in the Hoopall Classic. So some really good ball clubs there for sure.
Yeah, so and take a look just for a minute on the girls' side of the rankings in Division 5. And we follow Division 5 most of our schools here. Hoosick Valley 7-2. They still have the top spot, followed by that Lennox team at 9-1. Hoosick Valley gets there, I think, Rick, by virtue of the fact that they're playing a lot of Division 4.
Yeah, strength of schedule.
Strength of schedule helps them out. But you see they're lurking just at number 14. We included them in there. Is Drury at 6-5. So they're on the outside there a little bit. But they've got a shot now to move up if they can pick off a few wins here coming up against, especially Pope Francis. Pope Francis is a Division III school, so if they can compete with Pope Francis, even if they lose and keep it close, they're going to get benefit points for that.
And I think they will.
Right.
I know Springfield ICS, their nemesis over the last few years, has been moved to a different division. Pope Francis went in, so it's not much easier for Coach Downey and some of the kids in that league, but I know if I was coaching a team in that division, and I'm sure Coach Jacoby feels the same way, I'd rather go up against Pope Francis than I would ICS. No
question about it. On the scoring front, Rick, let's take a look at the girls' scoring here, both in Berkshire County. And you look at the Northern Berkshire statistics, leading the way there, the senior power forward, Taylor Garabedian, having another nice season, averaging a little over 14 points a game. But you see Jacinta Felix there. She's having a nice season for Drury.
Yeah, she's been consistent. She's been in double figures almost every game, and when she hasn't, she's been right around 8-9 points. Yeah, well represented. All 4 schools that we cover locally are in there. You can see Garabedian, also Ashland LaShore for Hoosick Valley. Now we move over to Berkshire County. A little bit different. Garabedian still leading the way. Yeah. Still the leading average in all of Berkshire County. The bright spot of the Taconic Thunder is Jalen Walker right behind her. Madison McCarthy, the 10th grader, has really stepped up for Coach Liz Kay this year. But then you've only got nine girls averaging in double figures, all in Berkshire County. It's all Berkshire County, every school.
Yep. And on the boys' side, leading the way in North Berkshire, the 2 seniors from Hoosick Valley, Frank Field and McGovern, Joey McGovern. McGovern's moving up the chart there because he's had some big games.
3 big games in a row. Yeah,
2 or 3 games, and real steady. And then you see Desmond Cobb and Sam Mormon. You know, I think he's important to Drury. We talked about him last night. The junior, he's really started to establish himself offensively. And then here's the Berkshire County boys scoring leaders, and there you see Pat McLaughlin, outstanding scorer, along Khalil Carlson. This is a real lineup of some outstanding high school players there. Manny Brown, Monument Mountain, and then of course you get on the list there. So some high-powered scoring there in Berkshire County. And again, we want to reiterate, our high school basketball game of the week is Monday night. We'll be live from Bucky Bullitt Gym at Drury High School for the rivalry matchup between Hoosick Valley and Drury. That'll start just around 7 o'clock, depending upon how the game goes. It's going to be channel 1302. Simulcasting on WMNB LP 107.1.
That's important.
So you'll be able to hear the broadcast of the game. You'll hear Rick's melodious voice.
Yeah. We change it up a little bit, and make sure we call the game a little bit different, knowing that people are listening to it on the radio.
That's correct. And of course, you can always catch us here on High School Basketball Weekly. Every Thursday at 7:30, this time, Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, and Sunday at 7 p.m., followed by a high school game of the week. So if you tune in, you know at 8 o'clock on Thursday, you're going to follow. And following right after this broadcast is a high school game of the week. That's going to do it for this week, Rick.
Okay.
Another great week of high school basketball. For Rick Bull, I'm Tim Morey saying good night and thank you for watching High School Basketball Weekly.